Good morning, this is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind.
Well, good morning and hello, kids, and welcome to season 4 and episode number, I have no clue, of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. 572. That was going to be my guess. Of the Daily Beaver Morning Show here on the Cryo Media Network. Yeah. Today, recording day is Monday, February 3rd, 2025, and it looks like it's going to be another great day here at the Beaver Lodge. I am your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver, eh? And with me, as always, but maybe not for long today, is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. Big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Peppermaster, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and CanadianTarot.com. Mr. Grizzly, how's your mental health today? Eesh.
It's not been good. I'm not sleeping at all. I had a terrible anxiety attack yesterday that lasted for hours. I'm just not good. Not sleeping, and shit's gone sideways. So I'm going back to bed because I don't think I could spell my name correctly right now. I'm so tired.
Okay.
So sorry to the Kits and Cubs, but I did want to at least start the show. But yeah, I'm going to go back to bed because I'm a zombie right now, and
Yep.
I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Self-care.
Thanks.
Love you. Oh, man. Get some Cubs. Okay. Given that Mr. Grizzly is not with us, I am going to switch up the audio here for the podcast listener. So please give me a second and don't mind the visual as I plug in here. All right. And put on the mic. There we go. And Kits and Cubs, please do let me know if you hear me, because that would be helpful. All right. There we go. Just checking the chat here. And let's just see. Oh my, you have been active today. All right. So there we go. Exactly, Kit Moan. Your well-being comes before our entertainment, Paul. Indeed. And already the kits are wishing Mr. Grizzly well. Have good sleep. Take care, Paul. Still looking for a sign that I can hear. There we go, Mr. Jim. We can still hear you. Perfect. Good. So the audio switch went well. All right, Kits and Cubs. Obviously, that switches things up a bit for your Mr. Beaver because we were going to do some clips because the Prime Minister, of course, did respond to the tariff issue, and we were going to deal with that today. So we'll still talk about it. We just will not have the visuals and the audio and all of that. So, in one way, it's been a slow political news weekend, kits and cubs, in the sense that there hasn't been tons of news in terms of quantity, different items, whatnot, but a big political weekend in the sense that there was one news item that was massive and did take up all the oxygen and is, when we say massive, it's not just massive news, but massive impact as well. So, of course, naturally, everybody's going to be talking about that. So, President IQ 47, shout out to Maggie May for that one. I don't know if Maggie May created it, but that's where I first saw it, so I'm giving her credit. But yes, President IQ 41 kicked off what the Wall Street Journal has dubbed as the dumbest or stupidest trade war in history by imposing 25% tariffs on pretty much anything coming in from Canada, with the exception of oil, I believe, which has a 10% tariff. And that one might be kicking in slightly a little later. I'm not sure. I'll, off the top of my head here, I'll have to double check that for you. But everything else, everything essentially is starting Tuesday. So tomorrow. Yay. It was a weird day, the day of the announcement, because he went golfing for a little bit, of course, because, he likes to fuck with people. And the announcement was supposed to come at a certain hour, and it didn't, and it came later, and people were going like when's it coming today? So everybody was waiting all day, like, when's it coming? When's it coming? And I'm sure that made his nipples hard, because, that's the kind of guy he is. He gets off on that kind of thing. The Prime Minister had scheduled that he would speak at 6 p.m., but what happened in the United States came down so much later than anybody expected that everything from the Prime Minister's side had to be delayed 2.5 hours, and then probably another half an hour after that. Nobody's impressed, except even the Wall Street Journal says this is dumb. Nobody understands it. Clearly, there's some other motive for it, and nobody knows what it is because he hasn't stated it. In fact, talking to his officials doesn't mean anything because he doesn't talk to them. And even if he talks to them, some of them go out, like the Commerce Secretary, and they testify at their hearing, for example, to get their confirmation, say something like, well, it looks like those ones may not come. And then boom, Trump says, oh, you pointing me in the corner. Okay, well, then they are coming. And then we heard that they weren't. And then they were again. So on the day of, we heard that they were coming, and then maybe not. And then, yeah, they definitely were. So it's always like, it's on, it's off, it's on. Might be this day, might be that day. Oh, we'll have tariffs. What are the tariffs on? Oh, we'll see. So nobody can prepare for that. Right? I mean, even the Prime Minister, in the quick Q&A session after, kind of revealed that Trump announced that there was going to be tariffs and then just didn't talk to anyone after. Because that's the way international relations are supposed to happen in normal order, right? So you can't negotiate, you can't prepare. How do you negotiate with a sociopath? And then how do you negotiate with someone as soon as he says, yeah, okay, that's the deal, can turn around 30 seconds later and tell someone else that's not the deal, or that you lied? So you can't nail down Jell-O, you can't negotiate Jell-O, you can't negotiate with a sociopath. So there's nothing that you can do except sit there and wait until it finally happens, and then try to have some type of reaction plan for an infinite possible number of contingencies. Sometimes the context limits the number of options. So it's not necessarily infinite, but I mean, you're always in the dark. It's always obscure. You never know what's going to happen. That's Donald Trump's thing, right? Just keep you completely destabilized all the time. So, we do the best that we can do in this situation. The tariffs came down, and you get all the typical type reactions in this case. So you got a lot of statements, Canada will be strong and all that kind of stuff. And yes, we need to do that. You don't let a bully push you around. So, I mean, that's, everybody's been saying it. Karina Gold says, if you're given to a bully, they come up and, they shake you down for more lunch money. Or Mark Carney says you don't stand up, you don't sit down to a bully. And, Justin Trudeau, it's like, well, it's not his first rodeo. I mean, this is the second time in 7 years that the president of the United States, as president of the United States, rips up a deal with Canada. Canada. Of the over 195 countries in the world, or about 195 countries in the world, Canada. All right. So the first time, and this is a point I made, and a lot of people are trying to say, oh, like this, everybody knows this about the United States, because what happened in Ukraine and the nuclear weapons and all that kind of stuff, but or Iran, Trump going back on the Iran deal. But this is different. This is different in a very, very, very important way, right? Because not only is this the second time in 7 years that this guy has broken a trade deal with Canada, right? This is also him breaking his own word as president of the United States. Remember, Donald Trump is the ultimate l'État, c'est moi person, right? Every time you hear Donald Trump going, oh my God, this is so unfair to America. You got to remove, let's put it this way. Donald Trump puts the me in America. Okay? So almost all the time when he says this is unfair to America, or America's been treated very, he's talking about himself. He's talking about himself. Right? He is America in his mind. So when he signed on that USMCA thing, because of course everything has to be US first, and here we're calling it CUSMA, and I don't know what they call it in Mexico. That's why I keep on calling it NAFTA 2, because it's just NAFTA 2. He doesn't have to brand everything. We don't have to let him get away with that. It's NAFTA 2. NAFTA 2 is his baby. As president of the United States, he negotiated that deal. And then he went all around and said it was the best deal that was ever negotiated by the United States. Why? Well, because he negotiated it, right? And here he is, a couple of years later. We're not even supposed to be reviewing this thing until 2026. Not renegotiating, reviewing. Looking at the changes we brought last time, seeing what works, what doesn't work, making a couple of adjustments, and then we go on, and then that's the deal we have like for 20-something years. That's all that's supposed to be happening in 2026. He just violated international law 3 ways from Sunday. So, for those of you who are in Ontario, right, remember Doug Ford breaking the beer contract so he can go early? Think of that on a larger scale. Donald Trump just broke the NAFTA contract so he could go early on whatever it is he's got next that he's not telling us. Same damn play. So, he's violated international law, but he's also violated his own word as president of the United States, and that means that's the word of the United States of America on the international scene. It is now worth shit. And all the world knows it. because of all the countries he attacked first. Canada. Nobody dislikes us, except maybe Putin. Maybe Chairman Xi. A little bit. But come on, man. As Chrystia Freeland said when she was like trying to put an end to the CETA negotiations with the European Union, there was that little region in Belgium. And she went to the camera and says, my God, if you can't make a deal with Canada, who can you make a deal with? And then things snapped into place. Got to remember, Canada is the only G7 nation that has a free trade agreement with every other G7 nation, as well as the EU, as well as Indonesia, and as well as, I think, 11 different countries in the CPTPP group. We network. We're connected. We truly are an international player in that sense. Unfortunately, we haven't done as much as we could have to maximize all of these deals because, unfortunately, Canadians have been very, very happy and satisfied for many, many years just pulling stuff out of the ground, putting it in a train, in a pipeline, or in a truck, and then buying it back at 5 or 10 or 20 times the price as a finished product. That's kind of changing now a little bit. There's certain industries that makes that hard to change, like, for example, oil and gas, which got hit with lower tariffs. Now, that had Danielle Smith running back and claiming some type of victory. But is that really a victory, or is that really Donald Trump admitting that there's maybe one soft spot in his tough guy talk? And that's oil and gas. Seems to me in that move that Donald Trump kind of revealed what it is. It's a little sensitive. He included it. It's 10%. Which Danielle Smith is running back to Canada and trying to portray it as a victory from her. See? My capitulating, my rolling over, got only 10% for us and 25% for all of you. Of course, that's a divide and conquer strategy, but we know that's not the deal. The United States imports 60% of its oil from us. And yes, while the United States does produce more oil than it needs for its own, some of the oil it produces is light oil, which it sells. There are certain refineries in certain places in the Midwest that are tooled to accept only Canadian oil. The United States operates on refined Canadian oil to sell some of the lighter crude that it has. Right? They need it. It's 4.3 million barrels per day. That's a lot of things that have to stop. That's a big shock if that stops automatically. So you got Danielle Smith claiming that that's a victory and it isn't, and then coming back and saying, you know, like this, I'm going to, now that the tariffs have hit, oh, I'm going to work with Ottawa too. But when she keeps on talking, she's talking about all the ways, once again, that being on Team Canada means everybody else in Canada protecting everything Alberta and everybody else going first and sacrificing first. So that's not, again, working with Ottawa. She says she's going to work with Ottawa, but when she keeps talking, she's not. And you got Doug Ford, clearly not happy because this came down as he's quit his job. Now he's doing things like, oh yes, the LCBO is not going to be taking any more, alcohol from the U.S. Now, for some people, it's like all alcohol. From some other ones, it's more targeted to red states. So, but different premiers are doing that, but seems to be a common thing for premiers. For Ontario, it's kind of important because the LCBO is the single largest purchaser, I think, globally of alcohol. So that one will be felt in that particular industry. There's a lot of talk of how we target our sanctions. For example, not sanctions, but our counter tariffs. We'll be putting a tariff specifically on Tesla's services like Starlink, for example, digital services like Amazon, for example, affect the people who are close to Trump. Got to play dirty. There's some joke chatter about turning off the electricity just before the Super Bowl, or to turn the lights on and off. So much so that it's actually been dealt with in the news, and people have done the calculations, and they think that if we did do that, it would affect things for about 34 minutes before they find a way to reroute everything for the game to go on. But there's even that type of talk. Hey, turn the lights off during the Super Bowl. But again, it's type of way, if that was actually done, and they say, like, don't own up to it, sort of Ukraine style, right? It's like, oh, sorry, did our routine maintenance just disturb your Super Bowl thingy? Oops, sorry. But ways of getting people's attention to turn the mood against the president. But I have a feeling that's going to be happening well enough on its own, just because, the guy who promised to lower the price of eggs is not only not going to lower the price of eggs, the USDA kind of indicated that the price of eggs is planned to go up about 20.3% this year, mainly because of bird flu. Something else for which Donald Trump doesn't have anything in the United States, I'm sure, to deal with that. So not only is the price of eggs not going down, but up over 20%, but now the price of a lot of the other things that you like to eat is going up another 25%. Maggots. Feeling had yet? He ran on lowering the price of eggs and making your life more affordable. Price of eggs is going to go up, and he has no solution for that because he doesn't believe in science. He'll probably hide the data rather than admit that it's happening, and then blame it on DEI somehow. It's all those brown eggs raising the price of the white ones or something. And now, any food that's imported, particularly from Mexico, but Canada as well, up 25%. That's your guy. You got. This is from the Canadian press here, because Canada did announce that it would retaliate. Oh, and that was the other thing as well. The United States not only said, hey, we get to impose tariffs on you, but on the day of Saturday, then they came out, oh, and by the way, you had better not retaliate because then they might go up. So in other words, the guy who was civilly adjudicated as being a sexual abuser, to the point that the judge then said, in common parlance, yes, you could say that he's a rapist, even though New York law has some technicality type thing that says he's not a rapist, is basically climbing all over on top of Canada and Mexico, and had someone come out to say, oh, by the way, you'd better not fight us or resist or retaliate, or else it's going to keep going. Run the country like a business, they say. Okay. I'm just saying, this behavior is unsurprising for someone of that character. Shocking, but not surprising. According to Canadian press, Ottawa is imposing 25% tariffs on hundreds of goods originating in the United States, from meat and milk to carpets and curtains, in response to steep new American levies against Canada. The federal government released a detailed list of retaliatory tariffs on $30 billion in goods on Sunday, less than 24 hours after U.S. felon President Donald Trump forcibly dragged Canada into an unprecedented trade war. And that's one thing I need to make clear, kids and cubs. You're going to see lots of things like, why is Canada initiating a trade war with it? No. We didn't initiate anything. We didn't start this. We didn't ask for this. Right? And I got Billy Joel going in my head, going, we didn't start the fire. We didn't ask for this. We signed the deal in good faith after he broke it the first time we indulged him. We didn't start a trade war. He did. We're just not letting him trample all over us. So let's put the proper frame on this thing. Anybody who's starting a conversation with United Canada is escalating, is engaging in a trade. No. We're not engaging. The barbarians showed up at our door. Right? Let's put the blame where it lies. Trump signed executive orders Saturday evening to hit America's closest neighbor with damaging duties of 10% on energy and 25% on everything else. Canada's initial response takes effect on Tuesday, when U.S. tariffs are applied. And like I said, that's on $30 billion first. And then there will be another $125 billion to bring it up to a total of $155 billion in 3 weeks. Ottawa plans to add the other $125 billion on hundreds of other U.S. goods after consulting with industry. So Canada wants to do some quick consultation with all the industries to see what it is that they can quickly source from other nations than the United States, and that type of stuff, or what it is that they'll be able to absorb initially. But the goal here is to impose tariffs on items, that the Canadian side of the border can easily find other sources for, if not other sources, or a quick fix or an alternative or that type of thing, another way around it very quickly. So the goal is to cause as little pain as possible to industry in Canada while inflicting a maximum impact in the United States. So we're starting with stuff, the lower hanging fruit. And that's when you're going to hear that. Well, it's the other reason why you're going to hear a lot about removing barriers for interprovincial trade, because if these types of tariffs could have a, let's say, 3% hit on our GDP, one way that we can recover that 3% hit so that we don't feel it so much in our economy very quickly is just to eliminate those provincial tariffs and barriers. There's about 3% of GDP growth, or 2% in there already. And that could buy us some time for the measures that we take to have an impact. Because you have to understand that the measures that the United States are going to have in Canada, the impact is going to be felt immediately a lot more than the impact of what we are going to do, right? So we're going to feel the sharper pain first, right? Whereas our measures will take a little more time to work their way in to the U.S. system. So just there is a difference in size, right, between our two nations. And if you do remove oil from the trade balance thing that Donald Trump keeps on pretending is something, right? We actually import more from the United States. The trade balance actually favors the United States. So all things except oil, if we were Donald Trump, we would be imposing these types of tariffs on the United States to rebalance with us. So, which means for all things except oil, we're going to feel it first, 25% more, because it's over a broader range of things, right? Whereas for us, for example, if we charge an extra 25% on steel from Tabasco, which is, not something that most of us use in our daily lives as citizens, that will affect specifically places and industry in the United States, right? When that starts working its way through the system, right? They'll feel it. Now, some things will be felt faster than others. Like, for example, the auto industry. If you remember, we had Mr. Volpe on in December, and we will be having him back when we have the time. And when actually more when he has the time, because he's kind of busy right now. It will be for a while. But the auto manufacturing system, the whole integrated system throughout North America, can come to a grinding halt by the end of this week, just by virtue of the just-in-time nature of everything. None of these auto plants have these big buildings where they have tons of inventory of parts. So, that's the way I heard it described, as if there's a plant in Nebraska that's waiting for one piece that's supposed to be coming from Mexico for that engine doesn't get assembled and everything just stops. So there are going to be certain sectors that are going to feel it way more quickly. The auto sector will be one. And this is also another divide and conquer, because by putting 10% on oil and 25% on all other stuff, these tariffs hitting the Ontario auto sector and the general manufacturing sector in Canada harder first. So that happens to happen as the premier of the province. While I guess technically still premier, not fully premier, because we're in caretaker mode and there's certain decisions he cannot make. The guy who was all over camera saying that everybody else, including Danielle Smith, needed to put everything else second so that we can all be on Team Canada. Not there. As premier with full powers on the day the tariffs come down. And the tariffs seem to come down in a way to hit the auto manufacturing sector the hardest first. And were he to be reelected, he will not be premier and able to do anything with full powers for another 24 days. Thanks, Doug. Way to go. Way to go. Keep going. The second list will include products such as cars, trucks, buses, steel and aluminum, aerospace products, and fruits and vegetables. The government is also taking steps to ease the effects of the countermeasures on Canadians by launching a process to allow businesses to request exceptional relief from the tariffs. Many Canadians weren't waiting for the government to retaliate, taking to social media to announce they have canceled subscriptions to U.S. streaming services, pledging not to travel south, and sharing lists and videos of Canadian-made items to help each other avoid buying American brands. Politicians are pushing the Buy Canadian plan as well. Now, on that as well, remember, there is some differences between a Canadian product and products that say made in Canada. Of course, you still want to support made in Canada. Just be careful that made in Canada does not necessarily mean it is a Canadian product. All right, so there is a slight difference, so check your labels. I believe that there is a lot of talk within the grocery industry and other types of industries to very much put more visible marking, either on store shelves or whatnot, to what is more Canadian. I believe that the federal government, provincial governments will be working together on a plan to coordinate with that type of stuff as well. So to help us make informed consumer decisions, it seems that they are going to be making these products much more visible in order to help us choose them. So that also is very positive, and that's something that we should have been doing all along, to be totally honest. But anyway, let's see what else is there here. Quote here, now is the time to choose products made right here in Canada. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau posted Sunday on X. Check the labels. Let's do our part. Wherever we can, choose Canada. Liberal leadership candidate and former Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland also issued a statement urging Canadians, urging Canadians to, quote, try your best not to buy products made in the United States. And that's the other thing too. Do not limit yourself to just buy Canada or buy Canadian. I mean, do that as you can, like this, but buy Mexican if you have an opportunity, and buy whatever. Just don't buy American, right? So yes, favor Canadian, absolutely. But if you can't find Canadian, and then turn around and says, oh well, fine, I'll buy the American. No. If you can't find it in Canadian, then buy Korean, buy Mexican, buy British, but don't buy American. Right? Let's vote with our wallets. The premiers of both Ontario and Newfoundland and Labrador confirmed Sunday that U.S. products will be removed from their provincial liquor stores on Tuesday. I believe Premier of British Columbia is also in on that. No word yet from Alberta. We'll see. The LCBO, Ontario's alcohol wholesaler, will also scrub American products from its catalog so that Ontario-based restaurants and sellers can't order or restock them. British Columbia Premier David Eby made similar moves Saturday, directing the BC Liquor Distribution Branch to immediately stop buying American liquor from red states and to pull existing stock from store shelves. Trudeau said additional non-tariff measures were being discussed by the federal and provincial governments, including some relating to critical minerals, energy procurement, and other partnerships. However, he did not say whether that included cutting energy supplies to the United States, saying instead any measures that involve one region of the country more than others will be done, quote, carefully and with the full partnership of regional leaders. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith has been staunchly against any retaliation that touches her province's oil and gas industry. And Danielle Smith was also coming back to Canada, preaching that we should not retaliate if there should be so many tariffs. Again, not with us. Quote, if President Trump wants to usher in a new golden age for the United States, the better path is to partner with Canada, not to punish us, Trudeau said. Because Prime Minister does agree that the better option is for both countries to avoid tariffs altogether, rather than trying to make ourselves as small and docile as possible so that Big Daddy Trump doesn't hurt us. GTFOH, Danielle. Ugh. By the way, turns out that while all this is going on, she took another thing away from Albertans. First, it was vision care for seniors and kids, and then there was some other thing that came down the pike. Can't remember it off the top of my head. But now she's removed some of the subsidies for daycare, thus inflating the price. And that tax cut she promised, because things were so unaffordable, is still not coming anytime soon. Alberta, you got screwed on electricity two ways, right? That rebate, turns out, was just a deferral, and then it went up 128% year over year from July to July. Now you're losing vision care. The AHS is blown up. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. Apparently, the board of the AHS that she replaced apparently needs to be replaced again. There's a testament to your own incompetence. Maybe the problem's you, Danielle. I do not understand why people in Alberta are not revolting. And now they got 10% on their oil. On top of that. Great. And of course, Danielle Smith, the thing that she's not telling Albertans is that 10% on the oil and 25% on everything else kind of makes the first area that we could be looking at for additional tariffs after this initial $155 billion would be on oil somehow, because Donald Trump left 15% of room there for it to be taxed or tariffed on an equal basis as everything else. Another little divide and conquer strategy. Conservative leader Chapelyev finally emerged out of hiding, removed the invisibility cloak, and urged the Liberal government to recall Parliament, that he wants to have a confidence vote to take the government down, to put in place a, quote, Canada First plan, that's original, to handle the economic repercussions from the tariffs. He actually came down with some 7-point plan that we need to do this, and we need to do that, and we need to do this, and sounding all leader-like, except that everybody else has already made all the suggestions that were in this 7-point plan, like some of them came down weeks ago. And he had to wait until they were actually all delivered before he first said something. That seemed like he was going to stand up for Canada. Everybody else had to go first, and Trump actually had to do it. But until then, he did nothing to try and stop it, deter it, convince anybody else. He worked no phones to talk to any of his contacts in the United States to help. He did nothing. He went snowmobiling and went into hiding. Oh, and a lot of $1,750 per person maximum appearances, which he's got another one tonight in a very, very, very swanky part of British Columbia. Yeah, so 2 days after the tariffs come down, he's hobnobbing it again. After releasing this 7-point plan, which is basically a rehash of what everybody else has said already to date. Maybe a couple of little conservative tinges here or there on them. This is not leadership. This is not impressive. Trudeau prorogued Parliament in early January to allow First Party to choose a new leader to replace him. The Liberal leadership will be decided March 9th, but the House of Commons isn't scheduled to return until March 24th. Poilievre proposed retaliating dollar for dollar, so does everybody else, by targeting industries that will have maximum impact on the United States while harming Canadian consumers as little as possible, which is what everybody else has said already. Trump took to social media Sunday to reiterate his false claims that America subsidizes Canada. He pushed his plan for Canada to become our cherished 51st state to avoid tariffs. Our cherished 51st state. You don't even cherish us as an ally. Fuck you. Number one. Number two, sorry. That one just slipped out. Sorry. Wow. Okay. Pardon me. That was reflexive. That was purely reflexive. Oh, man. Need to control my inner voice there. Oh, my God. Yeah. Not only does America not subsidize Canada, but his number keeps on changing. It was to the tune of 100 billion and then 200 billion. It's really only something like 55, and it's not a subsidy. It's all the things that we have that he allegedly doesn't need, that he keeps on buying. Just saying. We have a guest. Good morning, Mademoiselle Fox. How are you? Oh, it's true. I cannot hear you. I forgot. Once I'm plugged into the microphone, I can't hear anybody. I would have to unplug and change the audio. I'm sorry. If you have anything to say, please do. I won't be able to hear you, but I'm sure the kids and cubs would. All right. Thank you so much. I wish I'm going to have to listen to the show afterwards to hear what you said. Okay. Thank you so much for dropping in. Get some cups. Yeah. Once I plug in this thing, unfortunately, I cannot hear what other people say. It captures the sound and then puts it in. So that's why the sound for yesterday's show. And Kit Jim says there's no Fox audio at all as well, so nobody heard Mademoiselle Fox at all. Okay. So sorry. So they'll have to be an editing job for Paul as well with that. Sorry, Kits and Cubs. I guess when I put this in as well, it changes the audio at the other end too. All right. So I'm going to look here in the chat here because I haven't had a chance to follow it here. But see, Miss goes, we are feeling the same as you. Yeah. When my inner voice sort of like came on. Oh, well. Okay. Let's see what else there is here. Okay. Hold on a second. Guys at the other end, I have no idea what it is that you are doing. All right. I'm just going to keep on going on because I do not know what they're doing and I don't know if it's going to work. So you guys will let me know. But this is unplanned and unexpected, and I'm not exactly sure how to handle it.
Okay. Okay, sorry, Douglas. Can you hear me now?
I personally still cannot hear you. I do not know if the Kits and Cubs can. I'll look through the chat here.
Okay.
Kits and Cubs, did you hear Mademoiselle Fox this last time? Okay.
Okay, good. I'm on.
No.
Thank you.
Oh, yes, we can. We can.
So
But now she's gone.
thank you so much. Thanks for having me. For the love of Jesus.
We can hear her now.
Technology is a ding dong.
All right. I don't. All right. I'll just keep going. And now we are in split screen. Okay. Not helpful.
I think.
Okay.
I was listening to what you were saying. It's really
going.
important. It's really important. So please.
So yes, he has been changing. Oh, now she's back. Okay. Oh my God, people.
Is it Monday yet? No, like you were on a really good thread, so I'm really happy to just listen.
I'm so sorry for this, Kits and Cubs. I am so sorry for this. Kits and Cubs, did you hear Mademoiselle Fox this last time? Okay. All right.
Okay, good. I'm on.
No.
Thank you.
Oh, yes, we can. We can.
So
But now she's gone.
thank you so much. Thanks for having me. For the love of Jesus.
We can hear her now.
Technology is a ding dong.
All right. I don't. All right. I'll just keep going, and now we are in split screen. All right. Okay.
I was listening to what you were saying. It's really important. It's really important. So please.
So yes, he has been changing. Oh, now she's back. Okay. Oh my God, people.
Is it Monday yet?
Okay, I really don't know what
good thread,
to do now. Okay. Could we please remove the split screen? Because this is not working. I'm sorry, kits and cubs. I think Mr. Grizzly tried to add something to the show, but this was not shared with me before it happened. So unfortunately, it's affected the flow of the show. And I have no idea how we're going to edit this. So, all right. Let's try again. And I thank you for your patience and your indulgence, kits and cubs. And again, let me see, maybe I can remove this split screen. You know what? Never mind. We'll deal with it. All right. So we were talking, I think, about Trump claiming that he subsidized us. Yes. Okay. So, thank you. So, Trump, hold on, I'll go back to the quote that he says here. All right, here we go. Trump took to social media Sunday to reiterate his false claim that America subsidizes Canada. He pushed his plan for Canada to become our cherished 51st state, to avoid tariffs. If we're not a cherished neighbor, we're not going to be a cherished state, right? That number keeps on changing, right? He says it's about 100 billion, and then sometimes it's 200 billion, whatnot. It's about 55 billion. And again, because he keeps on saying, we don't need anything they have, that's $55 billion more a year of stuff we have that they need, that they buy. So, quote, we have unlimited energy, should make our own cars, have more lumber than we can ever use. Without this massive subsidy, Canada ceases to exist as a viable country. And maybe right there is the goal. Right there, right? He wants us to cease to exist as a viable country. The president linked the levies to fentanyl crossing the border, which is bullshit, and included a retaliation clause that says if Canada responds with duties on American products, the levies could be increased. We all know that fewer than 1% of the fentanyl that crosses the border comes from Canada. That crosses the borders into the United States comes from Canada. And yes, while we acknowledge that even that fewer than 1% can amount to a lot of harm to individual peoples in their individual life, it is nowhere near the same thing because Canada already has secured the border. That's why fewer than 1% of the fentanyl coming into the United States comes across the Canadian border. And in fact, Canada is, to use the term oddly, a net importer of net fentanyl coming across the US border. In other words, more of it comes into Canada from the United States than the other way around. So again, if we are using Trump's premises, we are the ones that should be slapping tariffs on them. Take away oil, the trade surplus goes the other way, and there's more fentanyl coming across. And soon, if Trump keeps on going with his raids and stuff like that, it might be the same for migrants. So all of this is bullshit. When you have all these people saying, you should have just secured the border. Had you just given Trump what he wanted? No, that was BS. Trump never gave a list of asks. He said, there was all this fentanyl and all these migrants, but he didn't say specifically what he wanted done about them. Just stop them. Once the border is secured, the tariffs will come off. Once the border is secured, what's the metric for that? It's fewer than 1% now. Will it be fewer than 0.75%? Fewer than 0.5%? Does it have to be an absolute zero? What's the metric? When will that be satisfied? There's nothing to go on. We don't know what to do. We don't know what to respond. We don't know what will satisfy. There's nothing. As we say in French, c'est du. It's like trying to pick up a sleeping cat. There's no spine. It just... There's nothing. Nothing to anchor on. It's just... Ugh. Anyway, keep going. The U.S. Customs and Border Protection statistics show that less than 1% of all fentanyl seized comes from the northern border. That's their own data on top of that. The new trade penalties could upend the Canadian economy and spur American inflation, even though the U.S. president campaigned on making life more affordable. Trump has played down the impact of import taxes on American citizens. He acknowledged Friday that there could be some temporary short-term disruption, but said people will understand that. And right now, I'm picturing the scenes from Shrek. Some of you will die, but it's a sacrifice I am prepared to make. Got to watch out about touching myself there. I might change the mic. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce said Saturday the tariffs will only raise prices for American families and upend supply chains. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce has come out against these taxes. Yeah, it's not great. It's not great. Now, the Prime Minister responded to it, and the first reaction I heard from somebody I know was, "Oh my God, that's so weak." And I found that interesting because online, all the reaction, pretty much unanimously, the consensus was that this was probably the best speech he's ever given in his whole prime ministership. It was the right thing in the right tone at the right time in the right way. Even Andrew Coyne said, "This is good." So the overall consensus seems to have been that it was a good response. This is from Abby O'Brien from the Toronto Star. Hours after Donald Trump slapped strict tariffs on Canadian imports, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau warned the U.S. that the better path is to partner with Canada, not punish it. Canada has the ingredients necessary to build a booming and secure partnership for the North American economy, and we stand at the ready to work together, Trudeau said, speaking at a Saturday evening press conference in Ottawa. Unfortunately, the actions taken today by the White House split us apart, said the Prime Minister. The comments came hours after Trump signed an executive order imposing a 25% tariff on almost all Canadian goods and a 10% tariff on energy, marking an era of economic uncertainty on both sides of the border. Both China and Mexico face steep tariffs as well. The measures in place as of Tuesday come despite Canadian officials' best efforts, including weeks of cross-border meetings and persistent public messaging encouraging strong trade partnerships between the two countries. For weeks, the Trump administration has framed the measures as a necessary response to a, quote, national emergency. And that's basically what he did. He invoked an old law and said that he's got a national emergency of that kind, which allows him to slap these types of tariffs on. Nowhere did he actually have to prove that there was an actual national emergency. He just had to say it was, and everybody else took care of the rest. Another familiar theme. For weeks, the Trump administration has framed the measures as a necessary response to a, quote, national emergency at the U.S. borders amid what it's described as an influx of, quote, gang members, smugglers, human traffickers, and illicit drugs of all kinds. Trump's threatened to leave the tariffs in place until satisfied Canada is taking appropriate measures to stop the flow of illegal drugs. And didn't we just stop like $853 million of cocaine coming in from the United States too, not too long ago? Just saying. At Saturday's press conference, Trudeau announced Canada would respond with retaliatory tariffs, 25% against $155 billion worth of American goods. Speaking directly to American citizens, he warned of real harmful consequences from Trump's actions. And this was one of the cool things that Trudeau did, because knowing that he's the dean of all the global progressive and democratic nations, and that the United States has been on a rage bender, especially the right against him, for a long time. He knows that if he goes, Americans, I want to talk to you, that they will carry it. So, quote, As I have consistently said, tariffs against Canada will put your jobs at risk, potentially shut down American auto assembly plants. They will raise costs for you, including food at the grocery store and gas at the pump. They will impede your access to affordable supply of vital goods crucial for U.S. security, such as nickel, potash, uranium, steel, and aluminum. They will violate the free trade agreement that the President and I, along with our Mexican partner, negotiated and signed a few years ago. He also denied Trump's claims that Canada is playing a central role in drugs pouring through its border, instead suggesting less than 1% of illegal fentanyl that makes its way to the U.S. originates north of the border. Earlier this month, an RCMP spokesperson told the Star reports do not indicate that Canada is trafficking significant amounts of fentanyl into the U.S. According to CBSA data, Canada Border and Security Agency, 4.9 kilograms of fentanyl was intercepted between January to October of last year, just over 4 kilograms, which was bound for the Netherlands, leaving less than a kilogram between exports to the rest of the world, including the United States. And the other thing is that, according to arrest records, it seems that pretty much without exception, when there is fentanyl being imported into the United States, it is an American citizen who has been doing it. Quote, we too are devastated by the scourge that is fentanyl, a drug that we too want to see wiped from the face of this earth. We must work collaboratively to fix this, Trudeau told reporters. After accusing Trump's actions of, quote, splitting apart Canada and the U.S., Trudeau told listeners on both sides of the border, quote, it doesn't have to be this way. And Charles Adler starts, if you are looking on our socials, we have a clip, 2-minute clip, about 2.5-minute clip of the Prime Minister's speech, and it starts at this point, and Charles Adler says that may have been the 2.5 best minutes in the whole Prime Minister's time as Prime Minister. Quote, as John F. Kennedy said many years ago, geography has made us neighbors, history has made us friends, economics has made us partners, and necessity has made us allies. That rang true for many decades prior to Kennedy's time in office, he went on. From the beaches of Normandy to the mountains of the Korean Peninsula, from the fields of Flanders to the streets of Kandahar, we have fought and died alongside you. During your darkest hours, we were always there, standing with you, grieving with you. Then he went in and talked about how he helped in around 1980 to free the hostages in Iran, and how we were there for Katrina, and recently with our water bombers in LA, and how on, of course, September 11th, Newfoundland, particularly the town of Gander, but Canada, offered refuge. Trudeau did not address Trump during his speech. When later asked if he'd spoken to the U.S. president, Trudeau said he hadn't been in touch with Trump since the inauguration, despite repeated efforts. Shifting this focus back home, Trudeau then addressed Canadians directly. I'm sure many of you are anxious, and I want you to know we are all in this together. The Canadian government, Canadian businesses, Canadian organized labor, Canadian civil society, Canada's premiers, and tens of millions of Canadians from coast to coast to coast are aligned and united. There are many ways for Canadians who don't approve of strict tariffs to send a resounding message, Trudeau explained. It might mean checking the labels at the supermarket and picking Canadian-made products, opting for Canadian rye over Kentucky bourbon, or foregoing Florida orange juice altogether. There are beautiful clementines and mandarins from other parts of the world if you like that orangey flavor, by the way, kids and cubs. And of course, the danger for everyone in all of this is that once we start making these switches, that we develop new habits, and once the tariffs are gone, we don't go back to the old ones. That's the risk with these types of trade wars. Still, the Prime Minister maintained faith in the two countries' ability to overcome their challenges and uncertainty, citing, quote, a friendship that has stood the test of time. Quote, through challenging times, in other words, we have been through challenging times before, but we always make it through because we've been able to count on each other for over 150 years, and we will continue to be able to do that long into the future, he said. We will continue to be friends and neighbors with a U. The with a U is, sorry, that's me touching that thing again. The with a U is my editorial addition here. Oh, my. Let's see here. What do we got here in the chat? Do we got some comments from the kids here? All right, just looking here. I went to the store at the farm where I buy my meat on Sunday. I've never seen it so busy. I hope they can keep up with the new demand. Good stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff. I like that. All right. Keep the chat going. Kids and Cubs. People are talking about schnitzel. Ooh. Oh, uncover the news. Apparently, Doug Ford has canceled Starlink. Wow, wow, wow. I think Doug Ford has had, if that is true, I've not seen it myself, but if that's true, that means that Doug Ford has been feeling the heat. And the thing that I've been saying all along, that Doug Ford, you cannot, in the same breath, say that Canada is not for sale and continue to court the business of the man who is funding the man who is threatening economic annexation and is now taking a first step towards that. So I guess Doug Ford has been feeling the heat to make that type of decision. That's going to put a huge amount of pressure on Pierre Poilievre because he really has been leaning into Elon Musk's endorsement. And now Doug Ford has kind of repudiated some business, if that is indeed true. Some interesting developments. Thank you, Kit Uncover, for bringing us that little tidbit. Hopefully, I will be able to find more about that very, very, very soon. All right, let's see. What do we have here in more articles and news for you, Kids and Cubs, today? Of course, the people in the Liberal leadership race, when it comes to these tariffs, have been very supportive of the moves of the Canadian government here. Mark Carney is the one that's in the trickiest position at the moment because as he's seen as being the front runner for the Liberal leadership. But we do have a government in place at the moment. So when he's asked, what he would do or how he would respond, he has to be very, very careful because we have one prime minister at a time, and he doesn't want to be seen as getting ahead of him or contradicting him or not showing his on Team Canada. And I've watched a series of interviews with him over the course of the weekend. He had one on BBC and one on the CTV Atlantic Canada recently, and I believe he was also on Question Period. I might be wrong on that latter one, but I've seen him like 2-3 times. He's doing a very, very, very good job at this, making it very clear. His expression is that he's foursquare behind everybody. He's leading the charges. He's saying, making it clear that, Canada has a team that's out there, got the finance minister, the foreign affairs minister, who might be his finance minister and foreign affairs minister eventually, even if he comes in and shuffles the cabinet a little bit. I'm sure he's going to keep some of these key people in these key positions, considering what's going on. It would be kind of silly to switch them out at the moment on these files, especially since some of them have just been moved into them, like Dominic LeBlanc and Nate Erskine-Smith on Erskine-Smith in housing. So yeah, he's showing support for the team, not undercutting. And talking when he's talking about himself, after March 9th, but not before. Until then, clearly behind all the team and supporting everything. And that is the right position. It's the only one that you can take, to be totally honest, if you want to be a serious candidate, unless you're like planning to upend everything. But he's doing it well, and he's doing it in the right way. According to Marco Vigliotti, editor-in-chief at iPolitics, all 5 candidates in the race for the Liberal leadership are calling for Canada to hit the U.S. with retaliatory tariffs. Chrystia Freeland, Mark Carney, Karina Gould, Frank Baylis, and Ruby Dalla signed a joint statement condemning U.S. President Donald Trump's unilateral decision to impose 25% tariffs on most Canadian products and 10% tariffs on energy products. The leadership hopefuls jointly committed, quote, to countering Trump's unfair tariffs and vowed to defend Canadian jobs. quote, as candidates for leadership of the Liberal Party of Canada, we believe Canadians must be united in our firm response to the unjust trade actions launched by President Trump, read the statement. I would like to read the fine print on Ruby Dalla's statement on that one, because I'm having a hard time believing that given the campaign she's been running so far, she would have this full-throated endorsement of retaliatory tariffs. I'm not buying it. All right. Yeah, I don't know. Freeland, who led Canada's negotiating team on the new North American trade deal during Trump's first term, has called for $200 billion in retaliatory tariffs against the U.S. that would target Republican states and goods produced by billionaires who support the U.S. president, including Tesla founder Elon Musk. Carney said in a statement that he supported, quote, dollar-for-dollar retaliatory tariffs aimed where they will be felt the hardest in the United States but will have the least impact in Canada, which is exactly the same thing that Pierre Poilievre has been saying, except Mark Carney said this a while ago as well. And Pierre, well, the other day was the first time he said it. The Liberal leadership race will conclude on March 9th. Then they talk about, Poilievre basically saying me too again. Ontario Premier Doug Ford was quick to respond to U.S. tariffs on Sunday, vowing to remove all American products from provincial-owned liquor stores. Quote, every year, LCBO sells nearly $1 billion worth of American wine, beer, and spirits and seltzers. Not anymore, the Premier said in a statement. Starting Tuesday, we're removing American products from LCBO shelves. As the only wholesaler of alcohol in the province, LCBO will also remove American products from its catalog, so other Ontario-based restaurants and retailers can't order or restock U.S. products, end quote. Ford had also earlier threatened to halt power exports to neighboring U.S. states if Trump pursued tariffs and block American companies from provincial procurement opportunities. Ford has said he called an early election for February 27th because he needs a strong mandate from Ontarians to spend tens of billions to respond to U.S. tariffs. Yet he was able to remove $1 billion of sales from the United States from the LCBO without a new mandate. Nothing says you never needed a new mandate. Like taking away the biggest single contract for purchasing alcohol off the table during your current mandate, even while in caretaker mode. You don't need a new mandate, Doug. So a lot of people are mad. A lot of people are mad that you called this early election, it seems. Bonnie Crombie's been making a lot of hay off of it. And now she's got to change the record, though, however, because you can only go for about a week saying that, it's irresponsible and selfish. But it seems at the door, people are really not happy. And if Doug Ford only has until February 27th planning to campaign on Trump, tariffs, and nothing about healthcare or education or anything of the like, and these tariffs are coming down and do bite, like if auto manufacturing does shut down by the end of this week, and Doug Ford is still not in office, that sound you hear might be his election chances just blowing away in the wind. We can only hope. God, could you imagine if Donald Trump actually did us a favor by getting rid of Doug Ford and Pierre Poilievre with this thing? I'll have to rethink a couple of things. No, I won't have to rethink anything. It'll just be a little bit of happy consequence for all the pain that we're getting. Unintended happy consequence. So, Ontario Liberal leader Bonnie Crombie told all reporters in Ottawa on Sunday that Ford, quote, should be at his desk and working today, not calling an election. Just like Pierre Poilievre should be at his desk today, working the phone lines, calling his American counterparts, finally, instead of going off to another $1,750 per person maximum hobnob event in a very posh part of a BC town or city. Maybe. Just saying. But the House of Commons is also not sitting and isn't slated to return for weeks. Trudeau prorogued the House in early January after announcing his intention to resign as Prime Minister and Liberal leader upon the selection of his successor. When asked by iPolitics if the Prime Minister was also acting irresponsibly, Crombie said there was a little different situation federally, but Ontario, quote, would need to work very closely and align our responses with the federal government and their response. Unlike in Ontario, the federal Liberals oversee a minority government. Unlike in Ontario, the federal Liberals oversee a minority government that requires the support of at least one of the major opposition parties to pass legislation. However, the Conservatives, Bloc Québécois, and NDP have all vowed to defeat the Liberals in the House at the next opportunity, paving the way for an early election. Crombie also said she would scrap the province's $100 million broadband deal with Musk's Starlink as part of a response to the U.S. tariffs, something Ford hasn't ruled out at the time of the writing of that article. But according to the chat here, it seems that he has. She said it was a bad deal that she never would have made in the first place. NDP leader Merritt Stiles has also vowed to kill the Starlink deal. Seems that things are coming into focus. I am not actually going to go all that much into Pierre Poilievre's thing. He had a 7-point plan. I mean, I guess I could read them to you. But I mean, it really does just come down to what everybody else has said before. So yeah. Yeah, you know what? Fuck him. He gets
Thank you, everyone, for coming.
He gets enough.
We must put Canada first.
Oops, sorry.
And that is why common sense conservatives condemn President Trump's.
Pardon me. He gets enough attention. He actually didn't say anything that added to the conversation. So if you want to check out his Twitter feed, you can. You'll see the 7-point plan. And when you're reading it, you'll say, yeah, I heard that before. So you know what? Given that he's gotten enough free media, fuck him. Pardon my language. But again, until he's able to come up to a microphone and full-throatedly say, I'm on Team Canada, I don't care much about his solutions. So perhaps that's a little harsh, but you know what? He gets enough airtime. I'm okay with skipping him today. Now, we have a bit of an issue, of course, once again, with Mr. Jagmeet Singh, because he seems to be as clear as mud with a lot of things. But it seems that he has doubled down on his pledge to force a spring election. This is a January 30th article, so nothing new over the weekend. So maybe this is still a little bit of what I reported last week when he was as clear as mud. But NDP leader Jagmeet Singh vowed Thursday to force a spring election at the end of March when Parliament is scheduled to return. His quote, "We will be voting against the government at the end of March. We will be voting against the government and there will be an election in the spring, but before that time there will be 2 months. Is the Liberal government proposing that we do nothing for 2 months?" Well, clearly the Liberal government is not proposing that we do nothing for 2 months because our retaliatory tariffs have been announced. And the Prime Minister had also, I believe, had a meeting with all the party leaders, and I think it was Elizabeth May that had announced that over the course of the weekend. And I think it might be sometime shortly after that, maybe. I would have to look on the timeline, so don't quote me on that one, that Pierre Poilievre came back with this 7-point plan. Yeah. So Jagmeet Singh, still nothing new since Thursday, really, to see how it will, how he will adjust, considering what it is that we've put on. If his position is still that while the Liberal leadership is going on, we should call Parliament back in order to pass a couple of things, so that he can then still take down the government at the end of March, when we know that there will be additional tariffs coming around April 1st, because that's the date of the report that Trump ordered in his executive order. I don't think that's very smart. of Mr. Singh. He's going to have to come up with another position. Because again, as we mentioned, it is not as if the pain of these measures is going to be less felt, or there will be less need for a response come end of February, come end of March, right? So this is not a sustainable position for him. He is going to have to shift at some point. So yeah, other than that, with regards to tariffs, the one thing here I would like to read to you, kids and cubs, is the Wall Street Journal. Because the Wall Street Journal is not particularly an anti-Trump rag. In fact, over the last particular while, has become a little more inexplicably pro-Trump, especially during his first term as president. So to have this in the Wall Street Journal, which Donald Trump, of course, responded to as, they're always wrong. The Wall Street Journal would not be the Wall Street Journal if it was always wrong, right? So clearly it hit because, again, you got to remember, if you know the story of Evita, right? She was a poor girl who just wanted to be accepted by the middle classes. Well, Donald Trump is just a new money guy who always wanted to be accepted by old money. Vulgar new money who wanted to be accepted as legitimate by old money. Nothing screams more old money than Wall Street Journal. So, that the Wall Street Journal is calling this the dumbest trade war in history probably hurts his fragile little ego a little more than he can hand. Here we go. This is by the editorial board, by the way, of the Wall Street Journal. President Trump will fire his first tariff salvo on Saturday against those notorious American adversaries, Mexico and Canada. They'll get hit with a 25% border tax, while China, a real adversary, will endure 10%. This reminds us of the old Bernard Lewis joke that it's risky to be America's enemy, but it can be fatal to be its friend. Leaving China aside, Mr. Trump's justification for this economic assault on the neighbors makes no sense. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says they've enabled illegal drugs to pour into America, but drugs have flowed into the U.S. for decades and will continue to do so as long as Americans keep using them. Neither country can stop it. Whoops. Hold on a second, kids and cubs. Pardon me. Something happened to my screen. It's been a day today, sadly. But we will fix this all up for you in a jiffy so that we can continue bringing you this article, because it is really worth hearing. And they did a follow-up, actually, as well. So hopefully I'll be able to bring you that one as well. And no, unfortunately, it seems that I will not be able to this morning. Okay. I had it fully on my screen. It has vanished. And I guess they had the article up for us to see really quickly, but I guess they put it behind a paywall since. So, darn. I should have got a screen cap of it instead, sadly. I'm so sorry, kids and cubs. Once again, I'm going to have to change the show on the fly. Oh boy. Yeah, not our best show. Clearly, not our best show. Sorry, kids and cubs, for that. I very much apologize. All right. So, in that case, since I can't really bring you much more, because I was saving the Wall Street Journal ones for the big finish. So, yeah. Oh, well, live broadcasting, I guess. That's the way it kind of happens. So overall, we have a situation where these tariffs have come down, and we have a situation now. There's fallout, and the pieces on the chessboard move. Now, this is the biggest series of tariffs issued by the United States since 1861, right? This is a huge deal. It's historic, right? The tariffs are dangerous for two reasons. First, we get the instant hit, right? But then it could be the impacts on demand over the long term. So like I mentioned, for example, when we're talking about Canada, like this, hey, we're not buying orange juice anymore. We're not buying Florida oranges. We're going to buy clementines and mandarins. And then you just never go back to buying the oranges from Florida. So there's that type of stuff. You stop some people in Canada decide they're selling their condos in Florida now, and they'll buy in Mexico. Well, that's, if you have a condo, that means you go back year after year. That means you lose that annual business, right? If a supplier, and it goes both ways, if a supplier in the United States gets something from a manufacturer in Canada that they can't get anymore and they find an alternative somewhere else, do they renew the contract with that manufacturer in Canada? If someone in Canada is importing something and decides to take 80% of the hit of the import costs and just pass on 20% to their client to try to get by for the next while, but then demand for the product over time just dissipates, and now there's nothing. What happens? There are both short and long-term impacts to this. As we mentioned about the auto plants, right? Production can grind to a halt by the end of the week, because throughout Canada, United States, and Mexico, the level of integration, the level of efficiency achieved by the integration is just so great, like I said, that they have parts delivered in terms of just in time. Parts get there and they're held for a few hours, and then they go into the car, and then they're out. So it's not like, there's a stockpile, and it's not like those parts can be quickly gotten anywhere else. I mean, by the time you either build a new factory to build the part that you need, or retool one to be able to do that, things have still shut down for quite a while. When it comes, like I mentioned, to oil, there are some refineries in the Midwest that exclusively use Canadian oil. But if prices go up and those refineries decide to refine less of it during the time, but the price of gas, so that the price of gas goes up automatically 10% because of the tariff. But then if it's too much and they're refining less of it, but demand doesn't go down, then you get the scarcity issue, and the price goes up even more than the tariff, thus making your product even less attractive. Right? This move is not good for us, but it's not good for Americans as well. It's going to hit them very, very hard. If you listen to CBC Front Burner, they have Peter Armstrong on it, giving a good detail. A lot of these facts here have come from that. Truckers are another thing, and the convoy crowd. As I mentioned earlier, the people in the United States, the diehard Trump voters, who voted for him because he was going to lower the price of eggs. Now, not only is he not lowering the price of eggs, but he's increasing the cost of everything else. Well, over here, we had the convoy thing because the truckers, right? The alleged truckers. What happens to all the people in the trucking industry when the automotive industry that has parts that go over the border up across and forth about 8 times, right? Car crosses the border 8 times or something like that before it's fully assembled. Like, who transports all those auto parts? And who transports all the food that's being tariffed now? All those truckers, alleged truckers, that came down to Ottawa and held us hostage for 4 weeks during COVID because the US president decided that truckers could not cross without the vaccine. Not the Canadian government. The US government decided that because the US government controls what enters across its border. And then through the 2 years since, have become all pro-Trump, maple MAGA. What happens in about a week from now when you lose your livelihood because of these tariffs? Feeling had yet? We told you. We told you. You kept on calling us haters. We told you this would come. We told you this is the stuff they had planned. We told you they do not care about you. And that's about to happen. And once again, it'll be the federal liberals leading the charge, mobilizing things to make sure that Canadians are kept whole, don't lose their homes because of this trade war. The Prime Minister delivered that address. I can't imagine Pierre Poilievre doing that. I can't imagine Mr. Singh doing it, not with the track record they have, not with the way they normally speak. I can't imagine delivering them that in that way and being considered credible. Miss May, I could. And just Charlie Angus, I could. Trying to think of one person in the conservative movement whose name I could put up and think, right now, none's coming to mind. I'm sure there is one. But, I mean, we need to stop cheering for the people who say things that make us feel good and start cheering for the people who actually want good for us. The solutions are not simple. And someone saying, I don't like the same people you don't like, so vote for me, is not enough to give you a good life. People who tend to campaign on I don't like who you don't like, so vote for me, tend to secretly abhor resentment for you. Why do you think that they pick on you to be on their side? They think you're the easy mark. They don't think highly of you. Sometimes they don't even think of you at all. We have a guy who is a populist that a lot of people are cheering for on both sides of the border, who has just launched the biggest series of tariffs issued by the United States since 1861, and the global economy was way different in 1861 than it is in 2025. We are way more interconnected now. Telling the entire world that he will willfully and gleefully do damage to his nation's most trusted ally and partner over 150 years. Violating his own word on an own deal that he himself signed fewer than 7 years ago. What is that going to do to the reputation of the United States? right? Donald Trump right now thinks that because the United States is so big, right, it could push us around. And yes, one-on-one, yes, the United States can. But when you send the message to the entire world is that a deal you sign with the United States of America is not worth the word it is printed on, because yes, while we all knew that Donald Trump's word was worth nothing, this is the first time that Donald Trump is violating his own word as president of the United States on a deal that he himself signed, that he once said was the best trade deal the United States ever once negotiated. But now all of a sudden it's terrible because of drugs, which have already existed, and because the border's not secure, which has always been the case. I mean, I'm trying to think back in my lifetime when some Republican has not run on, can we please secure the border? It's like, you've been trying to secure that damn border for 30 or 40 years in a row from what I can remember in my lifetime, and you still haven't gotten it done. Maybe it's not our fault. Maybe it's not the Mexicans' fault. The biggest country in the world with the biggest budget in the world. If you haven't managed to do it yet, maybe it's because it can't be done. Or maybe because you don't actually have a definition of what secure the border actually means. So you never know when you've achieved it. But man, this is not it. This is not it. And hopefully other nations will see this. We already have some nations. We have people in Australia and even in Greenland, in New Zealand, in New Zealand, the UK, even in the United States, showing solidarity with us. But the rest of the world is seeing this. Okay, there's a whole lot of other nations like us. New Zealand, Australia, all the individual nations as nations of the EU, the UK, Brazil, South Africa, Indonesia, all our CPP trading partners, Vietnam, the Philippines, middle countries, who all of us one-on-one, one by one, can be taken down. But if all of us lock together and start outsourcing from outside the United States and sourcing from each other instead, and we start making permanent decisions, the United States under Donald Trump, I don't think has realized what it is it has done to itself by doing this. I think they're still looking North America. You know, if we kick Canada's ass a little bit, maybe all the other nations like China and whatnot will fall in line, because if they see what we're willing to do to someone we allegedly like, they know we don't care about them. They'll be shaking their boots imagining what it is that we can do to them. Yeah, unless all the kids, all the weaklings on the block get together and decide they're going to swarm you next time you come and try to take one of our lunch money. Unless that happens. And, you know, one thing you got to say about Donald Trump, he's really good at uniting people against him. So, if it was any other president, I would say, oh, you know, you probably got a situation. No, but all these other countries are going to just turn around and say, hey, if you just negotiate a special thing for us, don't worry, we'll help you. I don't think that's going to happen this time. And by the way, on that note, Doug Ford, could you please fucking stop going on U.S. television and trying we need to throw Mexico under the bus? Huh? One of the good things the Prime Minister did in his speech is finally say out loud that we're working with our partners in Mexico. It's like, it is NAFTA too. Nothing stops us from doing more business and deepening our trade relationship with Mexico during this time as well. We have an opportunity for 2 against 1. The NAFTA deal, the reason Donald Trump hates it so much, is the only deal that the United States has signed where there's a dispute resolution mechanism in which the United States does not control 100% of the process. It's a tripartite, so sometimes Canada and Mexico rule against the United States on that one. On that one, the United States actually can lose now and then. So they don't like that at all, at all, at all. That's the one thing that they would really love to kill about that deal. The United States would love 2 bilateral deals rather than a tripartite deal. Would really love it. So while Doug Ford is campaigning, while Doug Ford says he's on Team Canada, but he's abandoned it to go run to get a contract extension, he is still saying that we should throw Mexico under the bus, even though our Prime Minister is saying that we're going to be working with them. Doug Ford, you need to shut up. Oh, by the way, Doug Ford will be doing 3 appearances on U.S. media today. As he's campaigning to be the Premier of Ontario. Okay. So yeah, this is big. This is big, and we still don't know for sure what his overall plan is and why it is that he is doing this. So, and how far he's willing to go, and how many other countries he's willing to rope in. Right? He's now started threatening Europe a bit. So, not the best situation. It's not the best thing to wake up to. None of it. Nobody needs this. Nobody wants this. Nobody asked for this. But we're getting it anyway because he has decided it is so. There's been some things going around. Like, for example, there's a clip of national anthem. 2 clips of national anthems. One where, the track went out and Canadians kept on, or people kept on singing. Then there's another one where the Star Spangled Banner came on and people started booing. I understand that, but let's try to not be those people. Right? There is a difference between the American government and the American people. And yes, I understand that a plurality of the American people saw this guy for 4 years and said, yeah, we'd like another slice of that, and we have to live with that. And we are less than impressed with those people. But the American people are not the American government. And we have a lot of friends. And a lot of people love us down there. So please know that we know it's not all Americans. And as Canadians, trust us, we've lived a long time alongside of you with having, not understanding why your government is such a bunch of dicks when a lot of you are just so nice. It's like your government does not reflect you. Oh my God. But your government does reflect a whole lot of you, though. And things have changed. So, yeah. We're Canadians, we're nice, but we're not pushovers. Let's put it this way. It wasn't all that long ago that the chairman of China tried to pressure us, also economically, when we decided that we were going to respect our extradition treaty with the United States and hold Meng Wanzhou from Huawei in detention here in Canada until the extradition thing was resolved. We arrested her and we detained her. And China put a whole bunch of squeeze on stuff from Canada to get us to comply, to get us to apply China law in Canada. And our Prime Minister resisted for about 2 years. So if we resisted pressure from Chairman Xi for 2 years, I'm not sure what makes Donald Trump think that Canada is going to bend to him. It's like he obviously has not met us, because it's just not the kind of people we are. We're okay. We don't like it, but if we have to take on some pain to make a point, it wouldn't be the first time in our history that we've been called upon to do so. It's I'm not sure where the Americans get the feeling that Canadians have any less love for Canada than Americans have for America. And that they would think that we're the type of nation that would, yeah, go ahead. Sure. Just do what you want. So, yeah. One-on-one, yes. If we are indeed all alone, then yes, we are screwed. But if other nations see what's going on and say, you know what, if this is allowed to take place, we're next. So let's start working together, all of us, to see how we can start adapting to this new reality. That could have very deep and lingering impacts on the United States. So, said, could either be the start of some brilliant strategy from Donald Trump that really works well for him, or the beginning of the decline of the American empire. Stay tuned. We'll see what we get. All right, kids and cubs, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. We really appreciate it when you do. It means the world to us. Now, if you would like to not miss an episode because you'd like to support us in various ways, well, one of the ways you can do that is by subscribing to our pod page. Thanks to the Ray Girl, she has sponsored it, and it gives you one little place where you can go and make sure that if you click subscribe, you do not miss at all a single episode of our show. And for some reason, I'm trying to get it to bring up on the screen, but the touch screen is being very, there you go, tricky with me today. So there you go. That QR code that just appeared on the screen will bring you to our pod page, podpage.com/TheTrueNorthEagerBeaver, with a hyphen between each one of those words. And when you click subscribe, when we have something fresh off the bandwidth, it comes directly to you. Now, kids and cubs, if you would like to support us in other ways, well, then you can go to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page. And that QR code that just appeared on the screen will bring you right there. There you can see our episode. You can watch our podcasts, which are exclusively on our YouTube channel. And if you are live with us mornings around 7 a.m. Eastern Time, you can interact live with the best damn fam in all of podcasting. Wonderful, delightful people who always help us with the show, particularly with audio checks. Of course, many other ways as well. Great chat, great conversation, welcoming bunch. Very knowledgeable people. I learn a lot from our kids in the chats when I read the conversations and when the shows are done, and I write the episode descriptions for what I don't catch during the show. So yeah, kids and cubs, absolutely do take a look at that. Now, if you would like to support us in yet other ways, because it's the beginning of a new month, yes, well, you can do that, especially if you would like to help financially by contributing to our coffee page. So if today you happen to feel particularly sorry for me, because I do take pity money, but I still managed to get an episode to you. So, but yeah, coffee, ko-fi.com, Eager Beaver, all in one word. If you go there, you will find the emergency hydration fund. You can leave a couple of toonies or loonies in there. I will be having a hot chocolate today, and I will be making it a double. So please give generously. All right. Now, if you're not able to contribute financially, please don't worry, because the gift of your attention and your participation are the gifts that matter the most to us. most to us, and we love to hear from you. True North Eager Beaver. I'm smiling so hard if you're listening on the audio that I'm having trouble to get the words out. Um, so we'd like to hear from you. So please write to us, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com. We have our home at the Blue Sky Beaver Lodge at True Eager, also at the Bad Place at True Eager. Our original home on Facebook, True North Eager Beaver. Please go there, leave us some comments. If you're listening on YouTube, right down below is the comment section. We do try to read everything. Well, we actually do read everything, and we try to respond, but we can't respond necessarily to everything. But we thank you for all of your input. It does make the show better. Because democracy is something that you do. If you live in Quebec, there's the Quebec Liberal leadership race, and I swear we will get to it one day and talk about something. Oh my God, poor listeners for Quebec must feel like we've just abandoned them. It's just, there's just too much damn news. There's just too much damn news. And the deadline for the race is a little longer than the Liberal leadership race in the Ontario election that just got thrown in. The Quebec Liberal leadership race had been scheduled for a while, but these two new things are new. And then tariffs, of course. Please do let us know what you think. We do try to get back to everyone, and we appreciate all of your comments. And like I said, register for that in the Liberal leadership race for Quebec. Make sure that you're paying attention to the 5 remaining candidates for the federal Liberal leadership race. That's going on too. Vote for that is March 9th. And there might be some waste anticipatory vote as that becomes more clear. They're probably still verifying all of the people that have registered to make sure that they are indeed eligible voters in this race. So those are the two big things. And of course, in Ontario, if you're an Ontarian, please pay attention to who's running. And if you have a candidate that you like, please support them. See if you can volunteer in any way. Let's see if we can defeat Doug Ford, hopefully fully as the government, but at least, if not, keep him to a minority, which could at least maybe be the end of Doug Ford. Good enough to start with. All right. Words of wisdom, kids and cubs. If you're someplace that's cold, this weekend was a little colder here in Ottawa, just bundle up and stay warm. And that's my only wisdom. I don't have any. And I guess today, when things keep on changing on the fly, it's okay to take a deep breath and pause for a couple of seconds and not say anything until you can regroup. Exhibit A, this show. All right, kids and cubs. I will do the little cueing of the cock and come back with a little bit of Easter egg for you. Maybe a little scrambled. Who knows? All right, let's see if we can do this. Mr. Beaver, please cue the cock. Believe it is this one.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music.
All right. I see here in the chat, Kits and Cubs, Kit Environmental Coffee House, that I'm going to write to you. What are you doing tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern? Would you like to be my guest to talk all about this with my audience? I will have to get back to you. Tuesday nights, I usually have curling, so I'm not sure at what time we're curling tomorrow. If it's the 5 o'clock match, I will be able to join you at 9. If it's the 7 or 9, I won't be able to join you this week, but I will be able to let you know when our next 5 o'clock is and when I could join on a Tuesday, or arrange for a pre-record maybe later this evening or something. But let's chat, okay? Kit Environmental Coffee House, I'd be happy, and thank you for the invitation. It's very kind of you. Let's see, what else do we have here? We had Kit Jen with a beautiful compliment. I hope you're totally proud of how you handled it. Totally awesome. I think I did okay. So thank you. Yeah, actually, I am a little proud of myself. Good stuff. Otherwise, okay, if Douglas says yes, I'm going to market the shit out of this for tomorrow night. This is really important for us. Well, the answer is yes, that I will do the show. I just don't know if tomorrow night is possible, but logistically, yes, we'll work it out, okay? But yes, it's a definite yes, I'm definitely coming on your show, and thank you for the invitation. A little bit of Easter egg news. Canada took on Hungary, first round of Davis Cup play this year. Sadly, Denis Shapovalov was supposed to be there, but was injured and could not play, so it came down to our number 3 and number 4 players, Gabriel Diallo and Alexis Garlerno. And the first day was pretty bad. Canada lost both singles matches. On the second day, we won the doubles match in what I've heard very briefly on the commentary, but have not been able to verify on my own, would be Vasek Pospisil, literally Captain Canada when it comes to Davis Cup, it being his last match in Davis Cup. So I don't know if that's true, but if it was a win in doubles. And then Gabriel Diallo did come back and win his second singles match, and was an upset against someone higher ranked, which left it all to Alexis Garlerno, who, while both matches he played exceptionally good matches, could not get past the Hungarian, and Hungary won 3-2. So the 2022 Davis Cup champions are already out of contention for the 2025 Cup this year, unfortunately, despite an extremely valiant effort. But it was just not to be. The Hungarians were just too strong this time around, especially the singles players, especially Martin Fucsovics, who won both of his singles matches in the turn. Felix Auger-Aliassime, unfortunately, was not scheduled to be there originally, because Dennis was going to be there, and could not show up at the last minute to sub in, because he was already in a tournament in Montpellier, I believe in France, and ended up winning it. So Felix Auger-Aliassime has his second singles title of the season already. So he won the Occitanie men's title here, and then won the title earlier this year in Adelaide, right before the Australian Open this year. So 2 titles for him. There's also a tennis player from Canada, lower ranked women's singles player named Victoria Mboko, who she's on fire this year. She has already won her 3rd title of the year already, and she's climbing up the rankings. She started the year, I think, at 308th in the world, and is now 215th in the world already. So she's won 3 titles in a row in singles, and I think won 2 of her last 3 tournaments in doubles. So just winning everything all of a sudden. So congratulations to her. Another name that you're going to be hearing a lot more, because once they start getting to around the top 200 and entering the top 200, every now and then you'll see them on TV. So Victoria Mboko, Mboko. Keep an eye out for her. Definitely rising, just as the same way we've been talking about Liam Drexel on the men's side. Victoria Mboko, keep an eye out. Canada, you will be hearing a lot from this young lady. She's definitely seems to have her game together at least for the beginning of this year. But I've been following her as she's been climbing up the juniors as well and doing very well. All right, kits and cubs, that's all I got for you. Have a beaverific day. And yeah, bye Canadian. All right. Love y'all. Bye.